Sydney had returned to a spot that once marked the very start of her adventure, a remote riverside camp hidden well away from the bustle of everyday life. It was here, in this quiet stretch of wilderness, that she had spent her first ever solo night on the road. A location that once represented freedom and open possibility now carried a very different energy.
Since I literally have nothing. So yeah, I just had a little snack, a little breakfast if you will, and I'm gonna hit the road again. I have about an hour to go to the grocery store. Holy short on-ramp!
At first, everything felt ideal. No other people around, the creek moving steadily alongside her, and the only sounds were acorns falling, leaves shifting in the breeze, and the occasional splash from beneath the water's surface. She cooked dinner without any trouble, savoring the alone time, but as evening crept in, something about the atmosphere began to change.
Wait, was that it? Oh, this is it. Okay, sweet. There's nobody here. I'm gonna get out and take a gander and make sure everything's like safe, and I might drive down there, but I might take the top spot too. I don't know yet. That's where my friend Grace camped when I was camping down here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna come down to this spot. Let's go way down, so don't judge me. And then for dinner,
What had felt like a peaceful quiet started to feel wrong. That specific kind of stillness where your own ears begin searching for something they can't find. Then came movement, subtle, deliberate, whatever it was just beyond the tree line.
is that?
She didn't panic. Instead, she calmly packed away her cooking equipment and kept her senses sharp. At one point, she even cracked a joke about Bigfoot hunting a deer, but beneath that humor sat something real, genuine unease. The sounds had changed position, moving from one side to another, as though something was making a slow loop around her.
Anyways, dinner is served. I really hope that wasn't like a mountain lion or something. But I'm not gonna let it scare me to stay in my car. I packed all my stuff up so that if I do need to like just close this, I only have this to move, but you know what I'm thinking? What if it was Bigfoot and
Out there alone, no cell signal, miles from any kind of help, Sydney finished her meal with her gaze locked on the darkness past the trees. Eventually, the sound stopped, the movement ceased, replaced only by that slow, crawling feeling of being watched.
Making noises because the deer is scared. That was so weird. I heard it move too. It like moved from like there to over there. I think my saving grace is that I know there are other campers back here, so I feel better about that. I'm not completely alone out here. Okay, I'm going to chow and watch a video. What should I watch? Trent the Traveler, Happiness by the Mile, Emma, Nikki, Tori Rose, Hannah.
Morning arrived without any explanation, leaving only the unanswered question of what had been lurking out there. Some think it was probably a deer, maybe with a predator trailing close behind. Others lean towards something harder to explain, something that lingers in the dark and never fully steps into view. Whatever it was,
I got up so late. It is almost 10 o'clock and I need to go to another national park today, which will be on the next episode. It's 2.5 hours away. And I'm pretty sure you guys can all guess which one it is. But it's the busiest, it might be the busiest national park, or the second busiest. It's top 5 for sure.
one thing stood out. Sydney kept her head, made smart decisions, and got through the night in one piece. But that feeling, it doesn't. Posted on May 16th, 2022, This video follows Adam as he embarks on one of his more unusual outings. His target this time around is Giant's Hole, a well-known cave network located near Castleton in Derbyshire. And despite the name sounding like something you'd find on a tourist brochure, this place has a genuinely unsettling history. Since 2002, the Derbyshire Cave Rescue Organization has been called out to Giant's Hole on multiple occasions, including one heartbreaking incident that resulted in a fatality. None of that was enough to deter Adam, though, whose appetite for exploration and the unknown pulled him straight toward it. Whether that turned out to be a smart call is exactly what we're here to find out.
We got a storm brewing here, look. Oi, that looks nasty. Didn't bring my rain jacket. Good job it's only 20 minutes back to the motor. Oi. Right, we're here. Oh, we're close anyway. Oh mate, I think this might be it. It looks the obvious spot. Oh geez. Yeah, this looks gnarly, man. I think this is it. Oi. Welcome to Giant's Hole. Oh, there's a shed load of water, man. And they ain't got no good boots. Does sound like it goes a long way back, but there's a lot of water in there, man. Can't be this one. I don't know. I'm gonna try and check it on a map or something, which I ain't got. See if we can get the video on YouTube. Right. There's absolutely no phone signal around here, so I can't check a thing. I think what I'm doing is just go in and have a look. It sounds like there's a shed load of water in here. I've got the most slippy shoes on ever. I really have. But yeah.
Even with signs of an approaching storm and water already beginning to trickle into the cave entrance, Adam couldn't stop himself. The pull of whatever lay further inside was simply too strong to ignore. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and his camera, he pushed forward, one careful step at a time, descending into the cold and narrowing depths of Giant's Hole, with no real sense of what he was walking into.
Walking for 20 minutes, mate, and then you got to come 20 minutes back, so it's the distance, it really is. Let's take a look. I've got to be honest, I hadn't expected any water in here at all. It was kind of like dry with a few pools when the dude did it. It's a bit sketchy, man, you know, gotta be serious, you know. I don't know if you just see that little speck, but that's the last bit of the entrance we're seeing. I'm going in. 20 minutes, mate. I'm freaking already, dude. What? No one knows I'm here either. I mentioned it to old man Grumpster yesterday, but yeah, he won't remember. Ah, well, it is what it is. What a spot though, man. Look at this place. Wow, this is pretty awesome. Ah, it is pretty wet. Ah, well, a couple of minutes in then. It's a little bit tight. I mean, it's high. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of height to it, but it's not very wide. The water's kind of stopped. It is damp everywhere, and all the walls are well smooth all the way up, man. At some point, there's been a shed load of water gushing through here, eh? Oh, mate, the height's gone. Great, I'm crouching, even me. I gotta tell you. Mate, listen to that. It feels a bit weird being in here on my own. I'll tell you that much. It really does. It's one thing coming down here with the lads or someone else, but yeah, mate, I'm here on my own.
The further in Adam went, the more the environment seemed to turn against him. Walls pressed closer, temperatures dropped, and a creeping sense of dread settled somewhere deep in his gut. Every footstep echoed back at him like a warning. Doubt was building fast, but he refused to turn around. Call it determination, call it stubbornness. Either way, Adam kept moving forward into the dark.
It's getting tight now, my back keeps catching. Alright. Keep moving. Mate, this ain't fucking good. I'm in a fucking dead end here. What the friggle? Oh my days, mate, I don't want to get fucking lost down here. Oh, you bastard. Oh, you bugger. Oh, you bugger off. Let's have a look. Damn it. I guess it's away. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna put camera down a minute. It's a bit slippery around here, mate. It opens up a bit. Alright. Calm down. Hello? Mate, it's a right echo in here. I'm getting a bit worried about the power on the lights. I'm good with the torch on the top of the camera that's got 3 spots on it. I've just turned my phone off because that's 44%. So Worst case scenario, I've got the phone to hold coming back. And my head torch, I forgot to charge that before I left. But I'm hoping that's got lots of power, mate. This bit is mad slippery. Oh, wow.
The situation was becoming genuinely hazardous. Adam had watched one video of somebody else making their way through this cave system, and beyond that, his preparation was pretty thin. Now, buried deep within its twisting corridors, that oversight was starting to catch up with him. His flashlight began losing strength, and hesitation set in hard. Getting stranded in the dark in a place like this was not something he wanted to experience. Even so, Adam had his sights set on a specific opening he'd spotted in that video, a point where the cave was supposed to widen out, and he wasn't ready to give up on reaching it. So he pushed on, further into unfamiliar territory.
Tight bits, man. Time to get real low. A little bit of claustrophobia going down, you know. Oh, wait up. Oh, mate. What the friggle? Wow. Wow. Hadn't expected that. Big open cave, man. I thought this was going to be the drop. I was hoping. I'm really not feeling this, guy. I'm a bit para. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. I will do when I get out. I'll be buzzing like a monster on speed, but not at the minute. There's a lot of water, man. Look at that. Oh, stepping in another puddle. Oh, jeez. Oh well. Keep going. No point turning back now, you know. Both my feet are absolutely wet through. I guess I got a spare pair of shoes and socks and all that when I get to the crib, so all good. Oh man, I'm totally underwater up to my ankles. Snarf. Frigate, whatever, look. Oh mate. Gotta say as well, I was just thinking, the video I watched of that guy, I didn't really watch it, I just sort of fast forwarded through. So it took him 20 minutes, but I've absolutely no idea what pace he was making. Hang on. Is this it? Mate. Whoa, we're there. We're in. Mate, I freaking made it. Dude. Oh, mate, you're not going to see a great deal of it. And I can't go no more down because it's gushing water like a madman. But yeah, somewhere over there on that rock, and I'm not scrambling over because I ain't breaking my neck. Somewhere over there is a hook, and you can go down there with a rope, and it just keeps going and going and going. Oh wow, man.
What Adam hadn't fully grasped until now was just how much danger a water-filled cave actually poses. Then the symptoms made it impossible to ignore any longer. The air had grown thick and damp, and the deeper he'd gone, the more labored his breathing had become. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and genuine alarm finally took hold. On the bright side, he had managed to reach the spot he'd been pushing toward, but any sense of achievement evaporated almost immediately. It was time to get out. All he could do now was trust his memory to lead him back through the maze before his condition deteriorated any further.
Thank you, mate. I'm really not feeling this. I'm worried. I'm down here on my own. My mind's racing. I just want to get out now. But I am sort of done it now. Yeah, that ain't good. Right, I'm getting out of here, mate. I wish it was only 2 minutes. It's going to take me 20. Let's go. Oh, I'll tell you what. It's a long way back. I'm just trying to memorise things like big caves. Oh yeah, remember that, da-da-da. Look, here's that turn. That's the dead end down there, so we go right, I think. Oh mate, my heart's pumping. Whew, I think I'm about halfway. 10 more minutes. Alright. That's kind of just freaked me out with that turn. I'm just thinking like, I hope I didn't miss a turn, you know. If there was another one, imagine that. Oh mate, just keep waiting for like an hour and never see the entrance again and not know which way back. Fucking hell, mate. Stop thinking, Adam, stop thinking. Just keep moving. Oh, this is random, you know. The light from the torches and all that, it keeps shining on the rocks in a particular way that when I come round the corner, I keep thinking I'm seeing, oh mate, I am, oh mate, I feel a little emotional. Okay, no mate, we made it, we're back. Just one last wet foot.
After an exhausting and disorienting journey back through the cave's winding passages, Adam emerged at the entrance, rattled but grateful to be standing in open air again. He made his way back to his car, found a quiet place to settle, and closed out the day with a calm overnight camp, giving himself time to decompress from the whole ordeal. In hindsight, Adam may not have fully appreciated how close to the edge he'd actually come, venturing into a cave that was actively flooding, with barely any preparation and deteriorating weather closing in overhead. He got out, and that was lucky. Had the water climbed even a little higher, we might be telling a very different story. It's a stark reminder that places can look manageable from the outside, but the moment you're deep inside unfamiliar ground, without the right knowledge or gear, everything can unravel in ways you never anticipated. Vanessa is the kind of content creator who was simply made for the outdoors. Her channel revolves around a genuine passion for nature, woodland exploration, camping, and ambitious long-term bushcraft builds that most people wouldn't dare take on. One of her trademarks is constructing wilderness shelters, sprawling multi-day undertakings that require her to leave the site and come back to pick up where she left off. This time, she was returning to one of those unfinished builds, a shelter she'd already invested a significant amount of effort into.
To bring you with me in the forest to my forest camp, because I had some projects planned that I want to finish today, and you would be able to accompany me. So I switched now to the start of the video because my camp was complete.
But when she arrived at the site, everything had been torn apart, and what she discovered among the ruins wasn't simply an act of destruction. It was a message, and a very deliberate one at that.
So there is a notification with my name on it. Mrs. Blank, learned nothing, short trousers, and then something I can't read. I'm not sure what's really stand there. I wanna piss at you, or I wanna visit you. It's such ugly writing, I'm not sure if I read everything. So you was not there, what a pity. Your camp is now damaged and it's your fault, we see us. So it was something that know me, that know my camp, and just want to destroy it because...
Whoever left this note had absolutely brutal handwriting. Like threatening someone is already a terrible thing to do, but at least make it readable. If you're going to plant a menacing letter in the middle of the woods, the bare minimum is legibility. Just saying. But all jokes aside, what the note actually said was deeply disturbing. The message essentially read, "Too bad you weren't here. Your shelter is destroyed, and that's your fault. We'll meet again." Left by someone who clearly knew her name, knew where she built her camps, and had been watching closely enough to time their visit for when she'd be gone. Vanessa made the smart call to take the note with her as evidence. But as she was picking it up, she discovered something else hidden inside it.
So, there is a photo from me. It's the same backpack that I carry today, and it's very damaged. So I'm not sure if it's a wildlife track photo or not, because there is the date on it. But when it's not a wildlife camera photo, that means that this person was in my closer area and take a photo from me, walked behind me, wants to check where I am, what I do, or I have no idea how they could other ways find out at which day.
A photograph of her, taken in the forest, showing her wearing the exact same backpack she had on that day. Someone had been close enough to snap that picture without her ever knowing, and that realization sent her mind straight back to the past.
I had it all in the past. I had a stalker that write me letters at my private address, which is something that nobody knows, which knows who I am, which knows the places where I was bushcrafting, and take photos of them and send it to me. Look, I found your new camp, and I had this all in the past, everything, and I fought against it in the past, and I don't want to have this shit.
She dealt with something like this before. A previous stalker had tracked down her home address, located her camping spots, and mailed her photos of her own shelters. Now every warning sign was pointing in the same direction all over again, except the stakes felt even higher this time. The old stalker had sent images after her trips were over. This one was there while she was out there. Now, some of you might be thinking, Couldn't it have been a random person who stumbled across the shelter and left a strange note? Maybe. But a photo of her, with her name attached, that's not a coincidence. That's deliberate surveillance. And here's the detail that genuinely unsettles me. Vanessa frequently films out in the forest. By herself, she swims, she camps, and as her videos show, she sometimes does these things in places she believed were completely private. With a photograph like that now in her possession, the question of what else this person may have witnessed, and just how long they've been out there watching, is one that's nearly impossible to push out of your mind. She mentioned toward the end of her video that she always carries protection when she heads out, which honestly good, because this is precisely the kind of situation that makes that a necessity. YouTuber Grassman58 decided to venture out solo and set up camp deep in British Columbia's notorious Sasquatch Alley. To give the impression he wasn't out there alone, he pitched 2 separate tents as a decoy. While scouting the surrounding area, he came across telltale signs of activity: worn trails, disturbed ground, and snapped branches. As darkness approached, he performed a single wood knock, a technique commonly used by researchers to either communicate with Sasquatch or draw out a reaction. Then, somewhere around midnight, he was ripped from his sleep by what you're about to hear.
Dead tired, so I went to bed around 9 p.m. And my second tent, I have my Zoom recorder inside there. So I set up my Zoom recorder inside my secondary tent, and I went to bed. Somewhere around midnight, I woke up to hearing what I'm assuming is my door handle on my rig, like somebody was pulling on it, just slightly, you know. And I could hear something walking around, and I kept hearing the door handles jiggle a little bit. I have motion sensor lights set up on my rig, and one pointing in one direction, the other one pointing on the other side of camp. Each one would go off at certain points throughout that time period, and something was walking around. I could hear it. So I slowly, while I was laying down, I slowly, you know, picked up my pistol, laid it down beside me, looked at my watch, and it was about 12:03 when...
Come morning, he swept the area for any physical evidence. No prints in the dirt, no usable footage, just this, a lone 4-fingered handprint. It had been left on the vehicle sometime in the middle of the night, lending weight to his account that something, or someone, had been attempting to get his door open. Back in 2017, a YouTuber going by the name Phil started posting footage of his hiking adventures on a channel called Hikeslam. One particular video follows Phil as he heads out for an overnight hike the evening before Thanksgiving, planning to camp along a trail somewhere in Virginia. The beginning of the trip feels completely routine, good weather, peaceful surroundings, but roughly 30 minutes in, Phil stumbles across some oddly arranged trash sitting dead center in the middle of the path. Leaning in for a closer look, he notices handwriting on it, a strange combination of song lyrics and deeply unsettling phrases. Lines like "Hangman is coming down from the gallows," scrawled on a piece of litter. That's the moment the atmosphere starts to shift.
Some of this garbage. This one. Hangman is coming down from the gallows. Song lyric.
It's genuinely hard to wrap your head around why someone would bother writing out dark, cryptic verses on garbage just to leave it on a hiking trail. But Phil shakes it off and pushes forward. Things don't settle down though. As he crosses into the wilderness boundary and approaches his planned campsite, something even more disturbing is waiting for him there.
This continues. What the hell? And there's a dead duck here. A very long note. And it
looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently killed. Alright. Kind of creepy. There's a fire down there.
There's no way to say for certain whether the person behind the rambling, scrawled note was the same one who killed the duck, but the odds of a freshly slaughtered animal lying right beside a dry, recently written creepy note being pure coincidence are basically zero. After taking in the whole unsettling scene, Phil spots a tarp and a lit fire at a campsite just down the slope. Not long after, he crosses paths with two women heading down the trail with their dog.
So, as I was hiking toward the shelter, still considering what I was going to do for the night, these two women were hiking in the opposite direction. They had a little dog with them. They asked if I had seen the guy who was leaving the notes. I said he has a campsite down by the river because I could hear the fire going. I could see where his tarp was set up. He was actually just sitting on a rock down there.
They want to know if he's encountered whoever has been leaving the disturbing notes and dead animals behind. They're visibly shaken, frightened enough that they ask Phil to accompany them all the way back to their car. Phil figures putting serious distance between himself and that campsite is a smart call anyway. So he walks them out, climbs into his truck, and drives several miles to a completely different section of the Appalachian Trail. The remainder of his journey to the new shelter turns out to be mercifully uneventful. He pitches his tent, boils up some ramen on his camp stove, and settles in for what seems like a calm, safe night by the fire. When darkness falls, he heads into the shelter to flip through the camp log and read what previous hikers had left behind. That's the moment the dread comes rushing back.
Wait a second. Well, let me adjust the camera here. This writing looks almost exactly like the writing that was on that garbage a couple of miles from here. Let's see if this makes any sense. In 2018, while I was incarcerated at the Okaloosa County Jail. What the heck? Wow, this is weird. It's just like it goes in one direction, then immediately goes in a completely different direction. And it's just so...
Despite the fact that this shelter is miles away on the opposite side of the road from where the day's weirdness began, the handwriting in the log is an unmistakable match to the scrawl on the trash from earlier. That alone would be enough to rattle anyone, but the actual content makes it worse. The entries ramble on about time spent in county jail solitary confinement, government conspiracy theories, and grave robbery. Knowing that a recently released inmate has been wandering these woods, leaving unhinged manifestos scattered along the trail is a genuinely chilling thought. As Phil starts gathering his belongings to retreat to his tent, one final detail catches his eye. Something dangling from the shelter ceiling, hung there to deter mice.
I have to go into my tent, and they have these things that they put in shelters a lot to hang your food bag from, so like mice can't get to it. Look at this one. What do you know? Same handwriting as the one in the book, and that garbage on the trail from that same dude. So it says, watch out for yeet mouse. The dead do walk and talk. Like, what the hell?
In what might be the world's most understated reaction, Phil reads the note, watch out for yeet mouse, the dead do walk and talk, and quietly zips himself inside his tent. The absolute last thing you'd want at this point is to be jolted awake by strange sounds coming from just outside, but that's precisely what happens.
I was down in my tent, not asleep, kind of just like lying there staring at the tent walls, listening to all the sounds, and then I heard somebody down by the shelter. So at first I had to convince myself it wasn't what I thought I heard, but it definitely was somebody down there. So I didn't even wait to see or go down to see who it was, see if it was like a bunch of teenage girls or something. I don't know. I was just like, I am getting out of here. So I packed up all my stuff, and I packed it up very quickly. I don't think I left anything behind, and I just walked past. As I walked past, I did look. It did look like a single guy hanging out in the shelter. He had a headlamp on. All I could really see was the light from the headlamp, so I could have been wrong. But man, it was, yeah. So I don't know. I just got out of there, and like that's the thing. It's like it was probably a guy who was out like me, like out and wants to just go camping or spend a night out, beautiful night, but I wasn't gonna hang around. I don't know, I guess I got scared, but so I decided to pack up all my stuff and hike back. Looked back behind me a bunch of times as I was hiking to see if that light was following me. It sounds silly, but I mean, like, but now I think I'm almost back at my truck, and I'm just gonna get out of here.
Lying there trying to sleep, Phil picked up the sound of someone moving around the shelter. He peeked out and spotted a lone figure with a headlamp pacing back and forth through the area. With zero interest in finding out whether this was the same person responsible for the trail of disturbing notes, Phil broke down his entire camp at record speed and bolted through the pitch-black woods back to his truck, glancing behind him the whole way. Sure, the guy with the headlamp could have been a perfectly harmless night hiker just looking for somewhere to rest, but given the dead animals, the jailhouse ravings, the string of bizarre incidents throughout the day, and the sheer remoteness of the location, it's probably a very good thing Phil listened to his instincts and got out of there when he did. Brace yourself for a harrowing sequence of events as two companions set out on a camping trip through the Appalachian Mountains and encounter some of the most chilling footage ever caught on film. For the most part, their hike was fairly routine, until things took a deeply unsettling turn when they wandered into what appeared to be a long abandoned settlement. It turned out that feral individuals were still occupying these crumbling structures, and they had no hesitation making themselves known.
What did you see? Huh?
Well, there's a feral person.
These feral inhabitants shadowed the two men throughout the entire day, as though patiently waiting for the perfect opportunity to make their move. Once darkness fell, the hunt was on. The pair took off at a full sprint, frantically searching for any kind of refuge they could find. Just when it seemed like the chaos might finally be dying down, the feral people made their presence felt once again.
Oh my god. We're being shot at. We're being shot at. Oh.
In the end, it was the rising sun that came to the rescue, forcing the feral inhabitants to pull back and retreat. A brief but genuinely disturbing clip, originally uploaded to TikTok by a user named Lauren Burlix, captured a moment during a solo UK hiking trip that left countless viewers deeply unsettled. The video went on to rack up serious viral traction, following the hiker as they crested the top of an isolated hill during what looked like a solo camping excursion. As the camera sweeps across the surrounding terrain, something unusual comes into frame on the far side of the hill. Down in the clearing, a cluster of adults wearing all white clothing stand arranged in a flawless circle, with two children dressed in ordinary clothes standing right in the middle of them. The whole thing is strangely silent and almost theatrical in its precision, which was enough to make the hiker pull out their camera and put the footage online. The clip itself is only a handful of seconds long, yet the mood it carries is genuinely difficult to sit with. A number of viewers recognize the group as contemporary druids, followers of modern Celtic spirituality who are well known for conducting nature-based ceremonies and rituals in outdoor settings. Under that interpretation, what the hiker stumbled upon was most likely a harmless spiritual gathering with no dark intent whatsoever. Even so, plenty of people weren't buying it. The image itself, a tight ring of white-robed figures enclosing two young children, hit a nerve with viewers regardless of what the group's actual purpose may have been. The fact that all of this was unfolding in such an isolated, out-of-the-way location only cranked up the unease and made the whole thing difficult to dismiss. Innocent or otherwise, what Lauren Burlix's camera caught that day stands as one of the most visually haunting moments ever documented on a camping trip. A reminder that sometimes the most disturbing things you'll ever see don't require any context at all. They just stay with you. So what's your take on this one? Drop it in the comments. It was March of 1925 when camping YouTuber Daniel Mark Brown headed out on one of his signature stealth camping excursions, this time venturing into the isolated woodland surrounding Austria, England. The idea was straightforward: follow a popular hiking trail until he could slip away unnoticed into the wilderness, making camp somewhere tucked out of sight from anyone passing by. For a while, things couldn't have gone smoother. Daniel stumbled upon an ideal little hideaway, sheltered by dense trees and completely invisible from the trail. He got his setup sorted, threw together a hot meal, and just soaked in the tranquility around him, totally in his element. As daylight faded and the trail fell quiet, a deep stillness settled over the forest. With no other hikers in sight, the woods felt like his own private sanctuary. By the time night had fully taken hold, Daniel was zipped up in his sleeping bag, relaxed and content, convinced this could be one of his best trips to date. Then, just as sleep began to pull him under, something shattered that calm without warning.
100% being spotted. Right, I'm trying to keep calm and keeping calm. I'm almost too scared to breathe here. I think.
A sharp snap of breaking branches yanked Daniel back to consciousness, far too close for his liking. And before he'd even had a chance to get his bearings, a flashlight beam sliced through the darkness and landed squarely on his sleeping bag. His pulse spiked immediately. For a moment, he just lay there, completely still, torn between staying out of sight or making himself known. The beam held its position, swept the surroundings, then swung back again. After several agonizing seconds that stretched far longer than they should have, Daniel forced himself to act. He slowly unzipped his tent and peered out into the night, hoping for a reasonable explanation, but bracing for something worse.
Oh, that's right. They're looking straight at me. Right, I'm trying not to panic. Hello?
Daniel called out to the figure, looking for any kind of acknowledgement, and what he got instead was the worst possible response. Nothing. The person didn't say a word. They simply turned around and moved off into the trees at a slow, deliberate pace, before eventually killing their flashlight entirely. For a split second, Daniel felt a flicker of relief that whoever it was hadn't come closer, but that feeling didn't last. The stranger was still out there somewhere in the pitch black, and Daniel had completely lost track of them. He had no clue where they'd gone, what they were after, or whether they were even by themselves. The forest that had felt so welcoming just hours earlier now felt like something else entirely. Every rustle, every distant snap of a branch fed the dread building inside him. Stranded in the dark with no cell signal, his mind started running through every grim possibility.
They haven't been about, I haven't seen a single light now for maybe 5-10 minutes. I don't even know. I've been just trying to keep as calm as possible. But when they walked off and the light went out, I don't even know which direction they were. But somewhere in that direction.
That encounter was all Daniel needed to make his decision. He wasted no time packing up his things and pushing his way out of the woods, every sound around him feeling louder and more threatening than it should. But if whoever held that flashlight had bad intentions, simply walking away might not have been enough. The silence when he called out was already deeply unsettling. What made it worse was the way they'd deliberately cut their light and melted into the forest, like someone who wasn't leaving, but repositioning. Now, it's entirely possible there's a perfectly ordinary explanation. Maybe it was a late-night hiker or someone out with their dog who panicked at the sound of a voice coming from the dark, choosing to slip away rather than have an awkward exchange. Maybe they were just as rattled as Daniel, but the other possibility is much harder to brush aside, that Daniel had come uncomfortably close to something genuinely dangerous. Whatever the reality was, he got out in one piece, with no further contact. That harrowing night stands as yet another stark reminder of how fast a peaceful solo adventure can spiral into something that feels straight out of a horror film. And something tells me Daniel will think twice before stealth camping anywhere near Austria again. Next is a genuinely terrifying submission from one of our all-time favorite channels, Uncharted Travel. It's a YouTube channel built around bold, adventurous exploration of remote and obscure destinations most people will never set foot in. The channel shines a light on forgotten, isolated, and often abandoned places across the globe, giving audiences a rare window into corners of the world that rarely get any attention. Solo expeditions, raw survival experiences, and the hunt for hidden locations are all part of the package. It's all about the rush of stepping into truly unknown territory. The date is October 28th, 2022, and Uncharted Travel is venturing into an abandoned mining settlement that's been left to rot ever since it shut down in 2017. The site includes several deteriorating structures, among them a tool shed and a compressor shed, with rusting mining equipment still strewn across the grounds. When darkness sets in, he decides to make camp inside one of the buildings, but the atmosphere quickly starts to get under his skin. Unsettling sounds bounce through the hollow structures, and the scurrying of rats does nothing to ease the tension. With motion sensors deployed around the perimeter and a dwindling water supply, he braces himself for what promises to be a long, restless night.
The right way, and B, not the whole way up like this. Oh, looks like somebody put some rope down here. I don't know if this is sturdy. Oh boy, this looks fun. Just gotta take it so slow because one wrong step, one little slip, and it's game over, man. Battling some of the steepest rock face I have ever climbed. Taking a quick water break, but it has to be quick because I still got all that to go. And to put in perspective how steep it is, like this is my camera at like a level horizon here, and the terrain is all made up with like shale and like sedimentary rock that's just slides from right under your feet, so you'll take
Brennan sets off on his grueling trek toward the abandoned mine, hauling a fully loaded backpack containing everything he'll need to survive the night. He knows exactly what he's getting into, spending the night alone in a place this remote, and this eerie is no small undertaking, and he's come prepared.
Well, we've arrived. It was quite the journey to get here, but now it's only 950 steps down to the bottom.
After an exhausting climb, Brennan finally reaches the mine and is greeted by sweeping, jaw-dropping views. But the sheer drop of the surrounding cliffs is a sobering reality check. If something goes sideways out here, there's virtually no quick way out. Could you see yourself spending a night somewhere like this? Drop your answer in the comments.
Gotta watch your step on some of these. They're beginning to crack and fray. You can see they used to have rail lines that sort of lead to nowhere now. But I'm gonna try and get up for you guys into this. It does not feel too sturdy, so I might not be able to explore the whole inside. Oh, the inside seems fine. I think this is a little bit too decrepit to sleep in, but it is an interesting structure. Oh, you gotta be careful where you step, that drops straight down. Yeah, imagine you're sleeping and you wake up to this view.
Moving through the mine in search of a suitable place to sleep, he takes stock of the crumbling interiors and the ghostly traces of what once was. The place has an undeniable haunting beauty to it, but the dead silence and decaying surroundings leave you with the nagging feeling that something or someone might not be gone after all.
Paranoia while I'm sleeping is I bought these little motion sensors. So this is just like your standard convenience store motion sensor. I think it said it did infrared as well as motion. I'm not 100% sure. I will be keeping this receiver in my tent here and moving this sensor to outside. And you can see when it detects motion, it'll give off this that little chime. So if any animal or any person or anything comes in the middle of the night, I will be able to wake up and deal with the situation before they sort of see me.
Hello, welcome.
So I was unaware of this until now, but apparently I lost one of my water bottles on the hike up, and that was my cooking / auxiliary water. For that reason, I was rationing to the account of 2 water bottles, and now all I have left for the night cooking along with the hike home is water, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's up to here. So our water situation is pretty dire, and I'm starting to feel the side effects of dehydration. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, I guess, scrap dinner and just pray for breakfast that I'll have enough water left over for breakfast in the morning, and I don't think I'm gonna have any for the hike home. It's supposed to drop down to about 9 tonight, but I have a winterized sleeping system, which I'm kind of regretting now because I don't want to be sweating, because I don't want to be losing water that I need. So yeah, this is gonna be one fun night. I was honestly really hoping that I'd get to go in the mines. That was my plan, to explore the mines during the night, because I feel like that would be a really cool explore for you guys, but unfortunately that won't happen. So I'm going to take off my shoes. Oh, you can see all the sand and sediments on hiking all day. Okay.
Taking no chances, Brennan sets up a motion sensor to warn him if anything gets close during the night. But then a serious issue surfaces. Somewhere along the hike up, he lost his main water supply, leaving him with almost nothing to drink. With no real alternative, he zips himself into his sleeping bag and tries to grab whatever rest he can.
Sensors weren't the greatest idea. It went off once and creeped me out, and I went to go check on it. Unfortunately I didn't film, but now it's silent. But the fact that it just went off one singular time and then now it's been silent for 45 minutes is something. It's like I'm skidding down the stairs. I don't know what that was, but I'm gonna check it out. It came from downstairs. It sounded like something dropped and fell down the stairs. Could just be the old building. Was this tube always here? Of course, now that I go to investigate, I don't hear anything. It sounds like maybe an animal. I can't say for certain, though. We go into the basement now.
Any hope of a quiet night vanishes the moment his motion detector suddenly triggers, sending his nerves into overdrive. Heavy thumping begins echoing up from downstairs, then another sharp bang from somewhere below. With his heart hammering in his chest, Brennan musters the courage to go and check it out, even knowing just how completely alone he is out there.
Something small like a mouse I don't mind, but I don't want to... Okay, that was a rat. But what was over here?
Heading down into the basement, he's met with even more strange sounds reverberating through the crumbling walls. So what would you do if you were in his shoes? With the hike back far too treacherous to attempt in pitch darkness, Brennan has no option but to ride it out until sunrise, and hope that whatever is making those sounds has a perfectly ordinary explanation.
I've had enough noises, I've had enough spooks, scares. Now that I've investigated the basement, I don't know, it doesn't seem there's anything. It might just be the building. Who knows? I passed my motion sensor on the way and it went off, so I'm happy to know that it works. And yeah, hopefully now I can get some sleep. It's been like on and off. I've been getting like little segments here and there of rest, but hopefully now I can actually just close my eyes and fall asleep, you know? Rest up for the long hike home tomorrow. That's like the third time the motion sensor outside is going off. Okay, I'm gonna go check it out. But I have the motion sensor set right there. You can see it's going off because I'm here now. But what was setting it off earlier? Maybe there's... I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna move it inside in case it's like a squirrel or something. But I have it pointed at our two doors here. So it won't be much of a warning anymore, but... at least I'll be up if somebody tries to creepily open the door. I think it's like 3:30 in the morning. I haven't gotten much sleep at all. I've been listening to this. I just have podcasts in my ear just to kind of like drone out some of the noise, but it just makes okay, that I think we need to go investigate that because I know I closed all the doors, so that concerns me a little. Hearing a slam like that. I don't know if my camera picked it up. Unlock it. Okay, I'm trying to be weary about noise discipline here. Or light discipline, because... it's not windy. And all of these doors are closed. Well, except for this one, but this one's not budging. As you can see, it's like stuck there. It'd take a lot to move these ones. But it sounded like it was one of these doors. That's so bizarre, they're all closed. Like... this night just keeps getting weirder and weirder. I swear I just heard the lock click. I don't want to have any lights. I'm going to kill my camera. Check it out. I don't think there's anyone You can just hear the ambient sounds of this old building, like the wind's blowing, and clearly it's making the wood creak, and there's pack rats. Like I said, there's pack rats everywhere in this building. They're in the walls, in the floor, in the ceiling, the attic above me, the basement below me, making all kinds of noise. They knocked something down the stairs earlier today, and that definitely woke me up. Sounds like metal dragging downstairs too. I don't know. I went down and checked it out. Couldn't come up with a source for it, but it's just all part of the fun.
Brennan survives the night without a scratch, but given everything that happened, the unexplained sounds, the heavy thuds, what sounded like footsteps, and the motion alarm triggering multiple times, one question refuses to go away. Was he actually alone in there? Was it animals? Another person? Or something that doesn't have such a simple explanation? Tell us what you think in the comments. And honestly, what would you have done? Toughed it out or made a run for it? Meet Josh, the cheerful outdoor enthusiast behind Camping with Josh, a channel celebrated for its serene trails, wilderness overnights, and peaceful solo adventures in nature. But in this particular video, what began as a laid-back camping getaway gradually unraveled into one of the most unsettling and bizarre experiences of his entire time outdoors. On September 27th, 2024, Josh headed out alone, venturing deep into one of England's oldest and most remote forests. When he got there, a heavy fog blanketed the sky and a soft rain trickled down through the canopy. The whole place felt calm and still as Josh went looking for the right spot to make camp.
But I found this really cool spot here, which has got a nice view of this open green part that's got a nice log to sit on and some nice mushrooms, fungi. It's quite nice around here, nice and light. It feels like it would be quite a nice light spot in the evening. It's really wet. It's really wet. I'm gonna have to just string my tarp up, don't think too much about it, and get a fire on and really get some wood, because a lot of this is saturated. It's been raining for the last few days.
While he was getting his tarp rigged up, a sharp crack of snapping branches broke the silence around him. Something about the sound didn't sit right, but he shook it off and turned his attention to collecting firewood before the light disappeared.
Pretty slimy, very wet wood. I'm gonna have to trim it down a bit really, batten it with my York knife, get some twigs and things, build a fire, and then just rest some of this wet wood and fatter pieces around the edge. Hopefully they'll dry off a bit and I'll just start feeding the fire. I've probably got about 45 minutes till it's gonna be dark, and I don't really want to. Okay, there's a robin.
As Josh got to work splitting wood, something stirred just beyond the reach of his camera, a sound he couldn't get on film. It wasn't the wind, and it definitely wasn't the rain. It was something different entirely. Rattled but composed, he rose to his feet, and slowly swept his gaze across the surrounding trees, trying to pinpoint where it had come from.
I'm just literally sat over there trimming the wood down, cutting it down how I like it, and I can just hear some mad movement going on in those bushes over there. I can't tell if it's like the rainfall just making quite a commotion, or there may be rabbits or deers maybe walking through, or any dog walkers or whatever, I don't know. Bit spooky. It'd be just the rain anyway. Well, I don't know why I let these things play on my mind sometimes. It happens, you know, guys, it happens. Literally, camping out solo is a wonderful thing for many reasons. But sometimes your mind just plays tricks on you. And you think you can hear like treading through the woods, but you can't hear any talking, can't see any torches. It's just me in here, I assume. But I'm gonna carry on. Push through.
He studied the tree line, convinced he'd spotted movement, but whatever had caused it had completely vanished. No person, no animal, nothing at all. Pushing himself to stay calm, he chalked it up to his imagination running wild in the fog-drenched woods. He made his way back to camp and got back to working on the fire, though the unease clinging to him simply wouldn't fade.
I'm finding it really difficult. Do you know what I mean? You heard that. And it's really quiet. There should be birds singing. There was birds singing, and I've just noticed they've just stopped singing. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they be singing? I'm finding it really difficult to focus. Lovely little spot. Lovely food to be cooked. A night under stars.
Heavy footsteps seemed to circle the perimeter of his campsite, broken up by loud bangs and the crack of snapping branches underfoot. The sounds kept going, wrapping around him in a way that felt deliberate, as though something or someone out there had its eyes locked on him. Josh fought to keep himself grounded, but every instinct he had was pushing back hard. His thoughts were spiraling faster than he could slow them down, and even as he pushed forward, a deepening dread crept steadily through his composure.
When the camera was off, I heard some really heavy movements in the bushes, and I'm pretty sure I saw something in the bushes as well. As I was standing still, there was this movement there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to leave my tarp here in the woods. My bag is already packed. I'm just going to grab what I can grab and come back here in the morning, and maybe just do a bit more talking with you there. So I think it's important to be real with you guys. Yeah, I'm gonna pack up. I guess I could take this tarp away, but I just don't really want to. Alright, I'm gonna go, guys. Hello?
Figures seemed to move at the edges of the dark, and eerie sounds continued to filter through the trees. Josh had logged countless nights sleeping under the open sky, but something about this one felt fundamentally different. Whatever was out there wasn't retreating, it was staying put. And for the first time that trip, a genuine feeling of danger took hold. Listening to his gut, he packed up his things and got out.
Or someone chopping wood, and they, for some reason, they didn't just maybe see a camper and think, oh, this guy's camping. They decided to stick around for quite a while. And that's what really put me off. And the silence and the eeriness, just, there was something in me that told me to leave. I did believe, God was telling me to just pack up and leave. You know, you've had some fun for a bit. You know, you've been out in the outdoors, you've enjoyed it. It's time to leave now. I listened to myself as well, and I just chose just to pack up and leave. What is there to lose? You know, I've had a good time. I've tried. And it's better safe than sorry. I'm sure glad that I left. It was pretty weird that I saw movement, I heard movement, and especially when I shouted out hello, nothing replied back. And you start getting familiar with the sounds of the woodland, what the difference between a twig that's fallen off a tree and it's got that bounce to a twig hitting the branches and falling to something pushing through the bushes. And I then noticed while I was sort of recording and also off camera that there was movement in the bushes. Now you could see in the video it wasn't dark by the time I was getting spooked. It was starting to, maybe the next 40 minutes or so. And I could see the black silhouettes of these bushes moving, and I could hear pushing, I could hear footsteps. But this was mainly happening when I weren't speaking and it was off camera, which is typical, I know. But I think if it was a person, they're probably waiting until I stopped speaking to move. And when I was standing still, they thought maybe I weren't looking and they were just stepping through the trees. I was starting to get really uneasy. I was getting really nervous about it. And it was at that point I noticed something literally opposite me that I thought might have been a tree, but when I stared at it, it dipped down behind the bushes. And that was when I probably that clip where I've not seen the footage yet really, but when I'm like, okay, and I just switched the camera off. And then as I was packing away, I heard a dog bark in those woodlands, in those trees. So I knew someone was there with their dog, or there was a dog or something roaming on its own. But as I was walking out those misty woods with the camera off, I could hear the treading evidently more behind me, and I just pushed my way through, hurt myself climbing over the fence.
Josh may never know what was lurking out there that night, whether it was another person, some kind of animal, or something that defies any easy explanation. But he listened to that nagging feeling deep in his chest, and that choice might be the very thing that brought him home in one piece. Out in the places where the darkness feels like it breathes, the difference between leaving with a story to tell and becoming someone else's story often comes down to how fast you trust yourself to move. Tim Morozov, a YouTuber with a reputation for venturing into haunted forests and derelict buildings, decided to set up camp deep inside the mysterious meta-forest in pursuit of paranormal activity. This place has long carried a reputation for its unsettling energy, driving away anyone who dares to visit. And it's fair to say Tim got far more than he bargained for.
Вы можете выйти со мной на контакт. Духи этого леса.
Without any awareness on his part, something, or someone, passed silently through the darkness just behind him. And as he pressed on with his Ouija board ritual, attempting to call upon the spirit of the forest, things took a deeply disturbing turn.
С доской Ouija, но уже в палатке. Если ничего, то вырубаю свет. Выключаем. Стакан дернулся.
Even though he had come here specifically looking for a response from whatever lurked beyond, when that response came, the fear hit him hard. What he hadn't realized yet was that this was only the opening act of a much longer and more terrifying night.
Вы тут? Кто здесь? Рация шатается. Ее кто-то тронул. Тут есть кто-нибудь? Кто там? Твою мать. Фонарик, тень откуда-нибудь показалась. Может, это фонарик, тень откуда-нибудь показалась.
In the blink of an instant, a dark silhouette darted rapidly between the trees. Tim had no idea it was there at the time, but when he went back through his footage afterward, there it was, caught clearly on camera. It left him completely shaken. You'd think the night had already pushed him to his limit, but the forest clearly had more in store.
Снова какой-то шорох, скрип. Сказала, уходи. Рация снова шатается. Сейчас проверю ее на Эми. Сигнала нет. Кто здесь? Кто здесь? Кто-нибудь? Твою ж мать. Это не человек. Это не человек.
Something was out there among the trees, watching and waiting. Gripped by overwhelming dread, Tim bolted toward his tent, hoping to find some sense of safety, but the oppressive atmosphere made it impossible to remain there even a second longer. With his nerves completely shattered, he gathered his things and fled the forest in the dead of night. One thing was absolutely clear: nothing would ever erase the memory of what happened out there. If that's already getting under your skin, let's keep going. By the curb, the van life channel run by James Burton is normally a laid-back affair. James documents travel, minimalist living, and the quiet, unremarkable moments that come with life on the road. But one night in Sunderland changed all of that in ways he never could have anticipated. January 16th, 2025. It was just past 5 in the morning when James pressed record on his camera. Still rattled, still struggling to steady his breathing.
I have just had the most terrifying experience of my life.
He'd spent 2 full years living out of his van without a single frightening incident, until that night, which was unlike anything he'd encountered before. Earlier that day, he'd made his way to Sunderland to shoot his next vlog, and settled on a quiet lane on the outskirts of the city. It was remote, just a farm and open fields for company, and it looked like the ideal place to park up for the night. He spent the evening researching, editing, and prepping for the following day's shoot, and around midnight, he finally climbed into bed, expecting nothing more than a peaceful night's rest. That's when the banging started. A heavy, thunderous impact directly above his head, hard enough to yank him out of sleep like a bucket of cold water to the face.
You know what it's like when you're fast asleep and something jolts you so much, you don't know what planet you're on. It's like my soul left my body, that my heart. So I get so, I'm like, what's that? Who's that? What's going on? I didn't know where I was. And I pulled blind down. That was my first reaction. And there's a bloody face at the window. The most terrifying thing that has ever...
He described the jolt as so violent it felt like his soul had physically left his body. Even recounting it on camera, he was covered in goosebumps. The shouting resumed next. Disjointed ramblings about mental health, voices in his head, fragments James couldn't string together into anything coherent. For roughly 30 minutes, the man prowled around the van, muttering, yelling, circling, occasionally going quiet for long enough that James had no idea where he'd gone. James sat motionless in the darkness, just listening, fighting to keep himself composed. He risked one glance through the window and spotted the stranger just a few feet away, talking to himself and behaving erratically.
Let me see a the front, his father was a Briton. His father, his grandfather, was a Briton, and I'm the bastard. Did not work with no one. I'm not the third door. I'm not the private rig. I'm not a first, he's an English footballer. And I'll leave her to know what means you do when you put on the dead people who you're supposed to love. Concept, I've never heard before. There's all new modern technology. You've got full stuff like this on there. You're a camera on, you're shutting out all
This wasn't a situation where you crack the door open and check if someone needs help. Not at 5 in the morning, not by yourself, and not when that same person has already hammered on your vehicle, hard enough to pull you from a dead sleep. For a brief moment, James thought about firing up the engine and getting out of there, but he was trapped at a dead end. And even if he'd tried, the windows were completely fogged with condensation, he'd have been driving blind. Eventually, the stranger drifted further down the lane, directing his shouting toward what sounded like another vehicle parked somewhere in the distance.
Right, he's moved on, he's gone down there. I don't know if there's some more motorhomes down there that he's shouting at now. I think it's probably pretty harmless. That just freaked me out though, that. I don't know what to do. I don't think I've got enough space to do a U-turn here. I don't know if you can see him at distance. Another van's come and he's buggered off now. I don't know what's going on down there. I think there's some sort of...
An engine turned over out there in the dark, and for a moment, it seemed like the man was finally leaving. James stayed put, wide awake and still on edge. Sleep was completely off the table. He sat at his little table and waited for the adrenaline to drain out of him.
So I'm just hoping that he'll get fed up.
Even hours later, he said his hands hadn't stopped trembling. In 2 years of van life, nothing remotely like this had ever touched him. No break-ins, no threats, no fists against the walls in the early hours, and certainly no stranger's face materializing at his window in the dead of night. That image, the face at the glass, stuck with him long after the sun came up. Something he never imagined he'd witness from inside his own home on wheels, and something he sincerely hopes he'll never have to face again. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is James with Junkyard Fox. Really appreciate you tuning in for my very first desert overnight of 2025. I'll be honest, I've kind of been ignoring the desert for roughly the past year. After dealing with a hand injury, I shifted toward forest and woodland camping because it's just a whole lot more forgiving, but I'm feeling significantly better these days, and it's long overdue that I bring you back out here to see some of this stunning desert scenery. Tonight I'm tucked away in this gorgeous little hidden gem out in New Mexico that my friend Rachel introduced me to last year. I've only been out here that one time with her and never had a camera rolling, but I really wanted to bring you all along and show you this place.
Everyone, James from Junkyard Fox. Thank you so much for joining me on my first desert overnighter of 2025. Now, I will admit that I have been neglecting the desert for about the last year. After I injured my hand, I started camping a lot more in the forests and woodlands because that's a much easier place to camp. But I'm feeling much better now, and you guys are overdue to see some of this desert beauty. Now, I am in this beautiful little hidden spot in New Mexico that my friend Rachel showed me last year. I've only camped here once with her, and I didn't...
So, getting my steak cooked is turning into a bit of a battle. The wind keeps pulling the heat right off the fire, so I made the call to ditch the grill entirely and go straight onto the coals, steak and all, water included. It gets everything going so much quicker, and honestly, it worked out perfectly.
Cook up my steak. The winds are really stealing a lot of the heat away from the fire, so I decided to remove the grill altogether and just cook the steak and boil the water directly on the coals. That way it just heats up a lot faster, which worked beautifully.
There you go. Did you catch that? Not sure the audio does it justice, but it sounds like explosions going off out there. My best guess is military drills happening somewhere on the far side of that mountain range. You get these bright flashes, followed by a deep boom. Let's see if another one shows up. Wait, you see that light? Is that a helicopter? Hold on, there's actually 2 of them. What is going on? Now there are 3. Are those flares? They've got to be flares, right? And now a 4th one. That is absolutely wild.
Did you see that? Not sure if you can hear it. There's like bombs going off or something. I can only assume they're like military exercises off on the other side of the mountain. You'll see like flashes of light and then a loud explosion. See if we can see another one. Oh, what's that? See that light? Is that a helicopter? Check that out. Oh, there's 2 lights. Whoa. There's 2 of them.
3 of them. Are they flares? I want to say that they're flares. 4 of them now. That's crazy.
September 2021. A tranquil evening in Asheville, North Carolina turned sinister for one woman traveling alone. Sarah, the creator behind the YouTube channel Sarah Dongo, had just finished a relaxing 2-day camping trip. Her itinerary was straightforward. Spend the day exploring the area, sleep in her van in a restaurant parking lot overnight, and move on by morning.
My next destination was Asheville, North Carolina, a city that had a Planet Fitness, which is the gym I work out at, and so I figured I'd orbit around the area for a couple of days to explore, get some computer work done, and get back to my routine. Asheville is a medium-sized city with a pretty artsy vibe, and the first day was great. I walked around town for a bit, enjoying the creative energy it was putting out. It has a good selection of restaurants, fun shops, and interesting people.
But the night had something else in store. With the lot now empty, the restaurant closed and dark, Sarah stayed put to cook herself a simple meal, her cooktop running and propane hooked up. That's when it started. A knock at the door. Not a soft, polite tap. A pounding. She went still. Lights off, volume down, ears sharp. Her first thought was that it might be law enforcement. It wasn't. Then came more knocking, this time directed at the rear double doors. Dread took over, and she killed every switch in the van. Still, the man refused to walk away.
Know her, please leave me be.
He began moving around the vehicle, testing every entry point. This wasn't someone just checking in. He was methodically searching for a way inside. Fueled by adrenaline and sharp instincts, Sarah disconnected her propane, climbed into the driver's seat, and got herself out of there. Only once she was somewhere safe did she contact the police. When she'd steadied herself enough to talk, she laid out the full story. Earlier that evening, the man had come up to her claiming she was a former girlfriend of his. He was convinced her van had been in that same spot before, and accused her of having broken his heart. Sarah had never laid eyes on him before that moment.
My first knock on the door, that was not the cops. Being alone, I was in the middle of cooking dinner, so I had my cooktop out, propane hose attached and everything, and then he's just bangs on my side door right here. I first turn off all the lights, turn all the sounds off so I can hear what's going on in case it is the cops and I need to talk to them. It wasn't, and then he banged on this door right here, the double doors, and that's when I got really nervous. He was complaining about a girl that worked at the Cracker Barrel and, it broke her heart and thought that she was in my van and was telling me to come out and prove that I wasn't her, and
even more unsettling, he wasn't buying her denial. He wanted her out of that van. She never unlocked the door, and because she held firm on that choice, she's still around to share what happened. As one commenter wrote, "You showed remarkable restraint. I was so hoping you'd just drive over him." In the world of solo travel, your gut feeling can be the line between a cautionary tale and a tragedy. Sarah trusted hers, and it saved her life. Camp Like a Bayouin is a channel where Bayouin channels his love for the outdoors through a blend of laid-back, bold, and occasionally outrageous stealth camping adventures, all wrapped up with a healthy dose of humor and a few things you might actually learn along the way. Being immersed in nature is his greatest joy, and being able to bring those experiences to an audience makes every trip that much more worthwhile. In a video uploaded on February 25th, 2023, Bayouin headed out on yet another stealth camping excursion, this time targeting a public park in Genk, Belgium, though things would soon take an unexpected turn. He arrived while it was still daylight, and the park was buzzing with visitors, so he took his time carefully scoping out a well-concealed location, biding his time until the foot traffic died down as night began to creep in.
I'm waiting for the people there to leave. Hey, that's a nice bird. What I was saying, I'm waiting for those people to leave, because in that forest behind them is where I'm going to set up camp. They're slowly leaving. They're taking pictures of the swans. I'm out of breath, but let me take this off first. Here's my camp. Behind it is the lake, the pond, and there are lots of geese.
Once everything was set up for the night, Beowulf watched the last of the sunlight fade from the sky. He collected some firewood, got dinner going, and eased into the calm of the evening. Everything up to that point had unfolded without a hitch. The spot felt secluded, well out of sight, and Beowulf had finally allowed himself to relax, feeling like the trickiest part of the whole operation was already behind him. Then, just as his guard dropped completely and the thought of being discovered had all but left his mind, something caught his eye out in the darkness. Initially, when Beowulf spotted the distant lights moving through the trees, he wasn't particularly alarmed. His best guess was that it was a couple of nighttime strollers out enjoying the park, nothing out of the ordinary. But as those lights crept nearer and the sound of voices sharpened, it became unmistakably clear that these were not casual passersby, and they were heading exactly where he was.
We kunnen beginnen met een heel slijf van verboden kamperen. Ja. Gewoon vuurschoten verboden door mijn bosweg, dus we gewoon heel gestresseerd proces vertaald kunnen worden in de natuur.
So guys, I got busted. I'm packing up my gear. I'm out of here. I have to go to the office. These foresters, they have an own office here at the domain. And they took my passport, they took 2 cameras. And we will see if what will be the verdict, I don't know. But I don't have much time. I have to pack and I have to walk all the way to my car that I parked further away. And I have to drive to their office and all this stuff. So, guys, I'm packing in the dark.
That must have been a serious gut punch for Beowulf. Despite knowing that camping in those woods was technically off limits, he had genuinely convinced himself he'd found an ideal hiding spot, tucked away, silent, completely invisible. Apparently, it wasn't quite invisible enough. As he recounted, he had little option but to gather his belongings and make his way to the local police station. Luckily, the officers were reasonable about the whole situation and sent him on his way with nothing more than a warning. No fine, no formal charges, just a straightforward reminder that not every quiet corner of the wild is open for an overnight stay. It was a narrow escape and a valuable lesson, even the most serene-looking patch of nature might be far less off the grid than you'd like to believe. So the question is, would an experience like this put you off stealth camping for good? This chilling footage was originally posted to the YouTube channel Sean SW. It begins about as innocuously as you could imagine, a guy out on a trail run through the woods, occasionally weaving past other hikers along the way. Through the first half of the clip, it's pretty much everything you'd expect. Gorgeous scenery, the rhythmic crunch of feet on a dirt path, and the odd coming up on your left as he moves around fellow runners. But that calm, scenic outing was heading somewhere very different. While he was locked in on his stride, something out in those trees had its eyes locked on him.
Holy shit!
If you've ever been curious what raw survival instinct actually looks like in action, here it is. The moment he clocks the threat, he goes from a relaxed jog to an all-out sprint, with a massive bear closing in right behind him. Every few seconds, he throws a glance over his shoulder to check how close it is, and honestly, the tension in this footage is hard to overstate. The video ends suddenly and without resolution, which raises some pretty obvious questions. Though the fact that he lived to post it online is reassuring in itself, that he managed to stay ahead of the animal for nearly 2 full minutes is actually pretty significant. Grizzly bears are capable of hitting speeds around 35 miles per hour, which no human can match, yet they'll frequently abandon a chase when cubs or food aren't involved. So what do you think? Have you ever come face to face with wild animals while out on a hike or a run? Drop your story in the comments. A YouTuber who goes by Rody was living out of his 2003 Tacoma, which had a camper shell fitted to the back. One evening on his way home, he pulled off into a deserted parking lot to catch some rest. Somewhere around 1:30 in the morning, he was jolted awake by the sound of someone pacing around his truck. Peering through the tinted windows, he spotted a man snapping photos, most likely of his license plate. The guy didn't appear to be any kind of security personnel, and it was obvious he had no clue anyone was sleeping inside. Then a flashlight beam swept across the glass. Rody threw his fist against the window, and the man took off instantly, disappearing into the rows of parked vehicles. Afterward, Rody realized his door hadn't been fully closed, which was probably what drew the stranger's attention in the first place. It must have seemed like an unoccupied and vulnerable target.
Right here, and you'll notice it's a little bit cracked open. And so I think what happened is I forgot to, I didn't forget, but I just didn't close it all the way when I went to bed. And so it was locked, but it was still not totally closed all the way. So this is kind of how my door was. You can see it's closed. There's a little gap. I mean, it's locked. You're not going to get in there, but it's definitely noticeable from the side and everything.
That unsettling experience was enough to convince him to stop sleeping in random lots altogether. France, March 2023. A couple who document their travels under the name Travel Tales had stumbled upon what seemed like the ideal woodland campsite. Remote, tranquil, just the two of them, their camper van and their dog Holly. They got a fire going, made dinner, and drifted off to sleep beneath a quiet starlit sky.
With a fire pit, they were all out of order. Maybe they don't maintain them in winter. But I found one and we're going there right now. It looks really beautiful because it's in the forest. So I'm so looking forward to get there and light up some fire.
This place is so beautiful. We're all alone and a van is just parked up back there. We're able to leave Holly inside as she was feeling a bit cold. But yeah, the wind has really picked up now. It was quite a nice afternoon, but now just in the last hour, it's kind of gone a bit grey and...
Then, shortly after midnight, everything shifted. They were jolted awake by loud voices outside. A thud followed. Someone had struck the van, then another impact. This was no wildlife, no weather. There were strangers out there, laughing and shouting, and one of them had slammed a fist down on the bonnet.
We're back on the road because we couldn't sleep where we were. Basically, there were a lot of people outside our van and we didn't feel safe there, so we had to leave. We were asleep and we heard a lot of noise coming from outside. We think that there were people having a laugh, you know, and a chat, but it turned out to be a nightmare for us. We're very tired right now. What the hell are those?
They had no idea what was going on. For a moment, they just lay there, frozen. Then Holly kicked off barking, and that was the turning point. They flipped the lights on, and whoever was outside bolted straight back to a parked car and sped away into the dark. Too rattled to stay, they pulled out immediately and drove without any real destination until they spotted a McDonald's. Somewhere bright, somewhere populated, somewhere that finally felt safe.
Basically, these guys, I thought they were just having fun because I could hear like music in a car, but there were some like a few meters away at least, and then I heard like voices outside the van, so they came up to the van and started hitting. I'm sure I heard one like on the bonnet.
Yes, and me and Holly were...
Yeah, Holly started barking.
Yeah. We were in a complete shock. Even now, we're still a bit... We've been driving for like 15 minutes without any maps.
Yeah, just driving straight.
We're so scared that they were going to follow us. That's what I thought, to be honest.
No, I don't think so. They went back in the car. Just a bunch of idiots, I think. First they were banging on the van at the front, and that's what kind of woke me up, and then I think there were more than one. Some were banging on the side as well.
Yeah, but the ones on the side were really loud.
Yeah.
That me and Holly jumped.
Yeah. Well, at first I thought it was someone like trying to get into the van, but it's just kids, I think, because I think when...
That night was a lesson a lot of van lifers eventually learned the hard way. It's not all golden hour views and open roads. Sometimes it comes down to listening to your gut and acting on it.
It feels safe, so that's why we left. Sorry we're not in a lovely state right now, but yeah, that's how it is. I've got Holly here on me.
It's bloody 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And the thing is, that park up looked normal, you know? It was okay. It was a bit dark, to be honest, but it turned out to be a place where people hang out at night, basically.
Yeah, bloody idiots.
Getting out of there was absolutely the right call. Well done. Excitement. Wrapping up a work stint near Bournemouth, one camper finds himself hunting for a suitable spot as the last of the daylight disappears. He stumbles upon a picturesque patch of woodland, though it's a bit busier with people than he'd like. Running short on time, he scouts out a discreet location to get his camp going. The spot he settles on sits tucked between a pair of roads, which means some ambient noise to contend with, but nothing he can't handle. As the rain begins to come down, he wastes no time getting his amok drama hammock and tarp rigged up.
In case the wind starts blowing through the side of the hammock, but anyway.
He throws a ground tarp over his kit to keep everything dry and gets a coffee on the go, already thinking about knocking together an early dinner of noodles. The steady drumming of rain against the tarp becomes the soundtrack to his evening as he pulls on his gloves to fight off the cold. But then something happens that chills him far more than the temperature ever could.
I can hear you.
At roughly 11:30 at night, he's snapped out of sleep by an unsettling noise. Two-footed footsteps moving close to his hammock. He shines his torch around several times, but comes up completely empty, and that unease stays with him for the rest of the night. He closes out the trip on a gray, drizzly morning, taking his time over coffee and oats before breaking everything down. He ends up thoroughly soaked, but keeps his spirits up and leaves the spot just as he found it, save for a dry patch. Travel Beans is a YouTube channel celebrated for its road trip adventures and travel vlogs, but one particular outing took a turn that nobody could have anticipated. Posted on March 3rd, 2024, this video features Emma and Alex recounting a harrowing ordeal that transformed their dream vacation into something truly devastating. The couple had bought a vintage camper van in the United States with the intention of embarking on a sweeping cross-country journey. The vehicle, which they affectionately called Frank, carried a charming 1980s vibe and was supposed to serve as their rolling home for the months ahead. Full of excitement, the two had been getting Frank ready, fine-tuning everything before they finally set off. What should have been a routine maintenance stop, however, ended up becoming one of the most traumatic events either of them had ever faced. While the van sat parked at a rest stop, Emma was still inside while Alex waited outside. Then, without any warning, smoke began curling up from the vehicle. Initially it seemed minor, maybe just a small mechanical hiccup, but within moments the smoke grew dense and turned a deep black an unmistakable signal that something had gone terribly wrong. Emma, still sitting inside, had no sense of just how dangerous things were getting. Alex shouted for her to get out immediately. The moment she stepped onto the pavement and turned around, the full horror of the situation became clear. Frank was on fire, and the flames were moving fast. The old van, packed with their belongings and lovingly prepped for a long adventure, was being swallowed by an uncontrollable blaze.
I knew there was smoke, and I guess I just assumed it was coming from the engine and kind of making its way into the cab.
Yeah, so I was shouting at Emma to get out of the van instantly. That image of the van being on fire and Emma inside will probably stay in my mind for a very long time. It's something that keeps getting replayed. But this is when, so I had my phone on me, so started to record. So this is maybe 10 seconds after Emma got out of the van.
What have we got in there?
This man was an absolute hero. He was just there trying his hardest to put this out with his fire extinguisher, and he was just kept trying and trying, probably for way longer than he should have done, putting himself in danger, really. Like, the amount of smoke, it was terrifying.
It then got to the point where he couldn't fight the fire anymore, and he just turned and ran. And at this point for us,
the fire escalated at a frightening pace, consuming the interior completely before they had any real chance to intervene. Within just a few minutes, there was nothing left to save. Emergency services were contacted, and while they waited, passers-by pulled over to offer comfort, support, and even transportation to safety. When firefighters arrived on the scene, they moved swiftly to bring the flames under control, but the damage had already been done. Frank was nothing more than a blackened, gutted shell.
Felt that we were actually safe and far enough away from the van. I just was hit by this wave of emotion, and I just cried my eyes out.
We're safe. We're safe.
Has anybody called 911?
No, we just ran out. Someone came with a fire extinguisher, and then
so this just happened?
Just happened. We were driving it 2 minutes ago.
Call 911.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Oh, God.
It was really surreal at that point, because up until that point, sort of, you know, especially when the guy was, you know, fighting the fire with that extinguisher and everything, you had this like sense of like, okay, what can we do? How can we fix this? But at that point, we just relinquished all sense of control over the situation. All we could do was just be spectators in this.
The fire department turned up extremely quickly within a few minutes of it going up.
They were amazing.
Yeah, so good, but unfortunately,
every single thing inside had been lost. That van had represented far more than just a mode of transportation. It was meant to be their home, their freedom, the vessel for an entire chapter of their lives. And just like that, in a matter of minutes, it was all gone. The exact cause of the fire is still unclear, though Emma and Alex believe a fault in the van's aging electrical system may be to blame. Looking back, they both acknowledged how fortunate they were, because if Emma had remained inside even a little longer, the consequences could have been unthinkable. Despite the gut-wrenching loss, they spoke warmly about the strangers and first responders who rallied around them when they needed help most. Ultimately, they came to terms with the fact that their road trip had been cut short before it ever really started. But they walked away with their lives, and in the end, that was the only thing that truly counted.